Hello everybody! If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 555, A Day in the Life of Bobby. Intermediate. Bobby the dog woke up with a yawn, stretching her legs as the morning sun peeked through the bedroom window. Her owner, Steve, an Englishman in his 60s, stirred beside her, rubbing his eyes and muttering under his breath. "Time to get up, Bobby," he said, patting her head. "We've got a busy day ahead of us." Bobby wagged her tail excitedly, already anticipating the adventures that lay in store. She watched as Steve got dressed and headed downstairs, following close behind. The first task of the day was to tidy up the living room. Steve began straightening the cushions on the sofa, fluffing them up and arranging them just so. Bobby, ever the curious one, jumped up onto the sofa, sniffing and snorting as she explored every nook and cranny. She couldn't resist the temptation to dig her nose into the crevices, scattering the carefully arranged cushions in the process. "Bobby, get down from there," Steve scolded, shaking his head in exasperation. But Bobby just wagged her tail and gave him a mischievous look, as if to say, "Can't catch me." Next, it was time to vacuum the carpets. Steve plugged in the machine and began to run it over the floors, the loud hum filling the air. Bobby barked excitedly, chasing after the vacuum cleaner and trying to catch the swirling dust particles that it stirred up. She danced around, her paws leaving paw prints on the freshly cleaned carpet. "Bobby, stop that," Steve called, but the dog just continued her playful antics, undeterred by his commands. After the living room was in order, it was time to move on to the kitchen. Steve began tidying up the countertops, wiping down the surfaces and putting away the dishes. Bobby, ever the loyal companion, followed him around, sniffing at the various food items and hoping for a tasty morsel to be dropped. As Steve was washing the dishes, Bobby couldn't resist the temptation to stick her nose into the soapy water, lapping it up eagerly. Steve scolded her, but she just wagged her tail and continued mischievous behavior. The final task of the day was to take Bobby for a walk. Steve grabbed the leash and headed out the door with Bobby bounding alongside him, her tongue lolling out of her mouth. As they strolled through the neighborhood, Bobby couldn't resist the urge to chase after squirrels and birds, pulling on the leash and nearly yanking it out of Steve's hand. Despite the chaos and mischief that Bobby caused throughout the day, Steve couldn't help but smile at her antics. She was his loyal companion, and he wouldn't have it any other way. As the day drew to a close, Steve settled down on the sofa with Bobby curled up at his feet. He let out a contented sigh, grateful for the peaceful moment after a long day of chores. Vocabulary notes. Stretch, verb. Example, Bobby the dog woke up with a yawn, stretching her legs as the morning sun peeked through the bedroom window. Similar words, extend, lengthen, spread out. Mutter, verb. Example, Steve, an Englishman in his 60s, stirred beside her, rubbing his eyes and muttering under his breath. Similar words, grumble, mumble, grouse. Anticipate, verb. Example, Bobby wagged her tail excitedly, already anticipating the adventures that lay in store. Similar words, expect, foresee, predict. Exasperation, noun. Example, Steve scolded, shaking his head in exasperation. Similar words, frustration, annoyance, irritation. Undeterred, adjective. Example, she danced around, her paws leaving paw prints on the freshly cleaned carpet, undeterred by his commands. Similar words, unfazed, unperturbed, unshaken. Lull, verb. Example, as they strolled through the neighborhood, Bobby couldn't resist the urge to chase after squirrels and birds, her tongue lolling out of her mouth. Similar words, hang, dangle, droop. Loyal, adjective. Example, despite the chaos and mischief that Bobby caused throughout the day, Steve couldn't help but smile at her antics. She was his loyal companion, and he wouldn't have it any other way. Similar words, devoted, faithful, steadfast. Contented, adjective. Example, as the day drew to a close, Steve settled down on the sofa with Bobby curled up at his feet. He let out a contented sigh, grateful for the peaceful moment after a long day of chores. Similar words, satisfied, pleased, happy. Story written by Claude 3 Haiku AI. Image created by DALL-E 3 AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.